Gonna get Insta going as well. Stand by. Let's get this down a little bit, bright then. Try and get this a bit better. Sorry, guys. I've got that microphone working. Check. Okay, fine. All right, good welcome, good welcome. Welcome. Yeah, a good welcome indeed. A good evening to you at, well, 8:05. Okay, so I'm 5 minutes late, which isn't too bad for me. You're all okay and had a good weekend. I'm Justin House, and this is TrueHouse Live, episode 481 on Monday the 9th of May. Starting something new tonight. I have indeed done a little bit of note taking, just to keep myself hopefully on track, because I'm going to talk about Venice Beach specifically. What I want to do is to do really opening up the archives of bodybuilding, and specifically my experience in the physical culture, should we call it that, of 27 years. So I was in it from 1990 till 2017. So I pulled out 5 years ago, and just going to buy a little bit of time, see if anyone appears. But yeah, I had a 27-year run, and I got some stories, got some anecdotes. As I explained on Friday, the way I'm doing this stream moving forward is to basically deliver stories that require no embellishment. You know, we've got absolutely a very strict rule, which is that there is no embellishment, no exaggeration, no bullshit. There's no need to tweak these stories. I will just deliver the straightforward truth, and that's it. Make of it what you will. So the rules are, again, I will not speak of or speak to anything that I didn't witness. So I will not include in anecdotes relating to the gym industry and physical culture as a whole. That encompasses the corporate sector, my years in corporate fitness, and my years in hardcore bodybuilding, both in this country and abroad in America. So, you know, very, very simply, I started, again, I'm not going to give you much preamble other than to say I started, as many people did, by beginning really in a small town, south coast of the UK here. It's a small seaside town, and I was as affected by, you know, media, the magazines, and the movies as much as the next guy or girl was in the 90s. So you've got to remember the sort of driving force behind a guy like me wanting to go to the Mecca. The Mecca was, and possibly still, but not the same impact, was always Venice Beach. You know, every industry, every endeavour has its respective Mecca, if you will, and fitness and bodybuilding is no different. You know, you've only got to watch. You know, I'm just setting this up as to why. You've only got to watch a classic piece of art like George Butler's Pumping Iron, which really launched the career of one Arnold Schwarzenegger, and the apparent rivalry with Louis Ferrigno, aka the Hulk. So for a guy like me, coming from a small town in the UK, strong motivation going through the 90s, into the millennium, thinking, if I go to this place, if I go to this place called Los Angeles, if I go to this Mecca in Santa Monica, where I and countless others had seen in the magazines and on film, like I say, classics like Pumping Iron. There was every reason, that's all the excuses I needed to justify a desire to flee to America. And of course, looking back, I mean, hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? But obviously, we've all made mistakes in life. We've all have to live with regret, and I'd rather regret the things I did rather than regret the things I didn't do. But I just regret my timing on certain issues, and suffice to say that I was in the right place at the right time to see what I saw over there. There's no disputing I was privy to the last 3 great years of bodybuilding. You've got to remember, my lovelies, there was a dying sort of the last embers of the flame of bodybuilding. The exciting bodybuilding days when things were a bit naughty. 18 certificate. I was able to be part of those last 3 years, and what a roller coaster it was. So those are some of the stories I'm going to share. I had no idea when I arrived in 2000 in LAX. I flew straight from Heathrow to LAX what I was going to stumble into. I had no idea that I was going to leapfrog myself and elevate myself into the highest echelons of professional bodybuilding. Not as a competitive professional bodybuilder, but as an Englishman. I wasn't obviously genetically blessed, even though I did compete successfully later on in the UK, and I had a good physique for a 6'5" guy. I was never at the standard of a 5'10", Mr. Olympia competitor. Let's be very clear about that. I was an unusually balanced, unusually proportionate 6'5" British bodybuilder that looked decent, but never carried anywhere near approaching the mass that you would see on a package like Dorian Yates or Ronnie Coleman. Let's be very, very clear. I'm always going to be super sincere and super clear about that. So my physique was good for an amateur, and good for a British 6'5" guy to have legs, etc. So the excitement for me was to, like I said, I left the UK. I actually got to Venice Beach. I spent from 1990 till 2000, my first decade in the UK, of getting deep, into British corporate fitness and British bodybuilding. Again, the 90s, right time, right place. Knowing the right people. Again, that's blind luck. That's you can't look back now and say, well, it was a group thing. So there were certain people that created a movement. You must understand this. And anyone that's been around bodybuilding for more than a decade or two, so I've got a really bad neck today. Anyone that's been involved in the game for a while will know that something significant happened in the 90s, specifically the late 80s going into the early 90s. Little did the bodybuilding community know what was about to change. And I'm proud to say that as an Englishman, it was one of us that did it. And when I say one of us, I mean a British guy. So it was our most successful export at the time. A guy from Birmingham called Dorian Yates, who I know, who is a mate, who went on to win the coveted Mr. Olympia title, which we call the Sandow Trophy, 6 times from 92 to 97 inclusive. Um, and that's never been done again by an Englishman. Um, to put that in perspective, it's only Lee Haney, Schwarzenegger, Ronnie Coleman, and Phil Heath that it's a small number, top of my head. So Schwarzenegger, Phil Heath, Lee Haney, Coleman, Dorian. Yeah, like 5 guys that have managed to win the Olympia more than 5 times, in a row. I think Jay Cutler got 4, but like I say, Dorian got 6, Arnie got 7, Ronnie Coleman got 8, Lee Haney got 8. I think Phil Heath might have got 9. I'm not sure, but like I said, there's literally a group of 5 men on the globe that managed to string together these consecutive wins, um, winning year after year after year, and stringing together, 5 6 years on the trot, back to back. It's very very rare that happens. So that precedent was set between 92 and 97 by R. Dorian, and that altered the climate of bodybuilding. So when I landed in Venice Beach in Jan 2000, it was only 3 years after Dorian had retired. What that meant was, whenever an English accent, I need to explain why, how just a regular guy like me would penetrate. Because you got to think about this in relation to other endeavours. So let's be fair. If we're talking about the upper echelons of bodybuilding and how a layman like me, just a civvy, would and could hang out with the elite of the industry, um, that wouldn't happen in Formula One, would it? You got to look at how accessible it is. So if I picked Grand Prix motorcycle racing or something I dearly love, or Formula One, and I said, oh, I'm just the average Joe, and I'm going to endeavour to get up close to these people and hang out in pit lane in Grand Prix racing, Formula One, whatever, and start to have drinks with you know Red Bull or Mercedes, and just it'd be very unlikely that that would happen unless I had something huge to offer. If I was like an engine genius or a computer genius, or a suspension expert or something. That's the only way a person now or any time really would or football or anything. So what is it about bodybuilding that makes it, dare I say, working class, but accessible for a bloke like me that had an English accent? And you've got to remember, this is 22 years ago. So when I arrived in Venice Beach, which was January 2000, the mistake I made, which is something I mentioned earlier, is that I did build up a very successful business in the UK of personal training for a decade. And looking back, like I say, hindsight, isn't it? I was very foolish to walk away from such an incredibly successful business at its height, at its peak. Just a quick side note on there. Through a very rapidly evolving, rapidly growing British fitness corporate fitness company called Fitness First in the early 90s, I built from inception, and this is something I'm still relatively proud of, is that from inception, what I mean by that is I was the first PT for this company in the UK, end of. So Fitness First began their initial public offering, I believe it was the sort of mid 92 or 93. And I was with them from, sort of 91 around there. And they just had one club. So they hadn't built even two clubs yet. And I was with them from the origins of having a club. And that happened to be in my hometown of Bournemouth. So again, that's just happenstance, isn't it? So I was the first PT from the inception of that company. And subsequently, that gave me again, you know, you hear these days about people that might be a successful YouTuber because they're first wave, early adopters. And I recognise now, and do I ever kick myself? Do I ever? That I was in the enviable position in 2000 of having a business that was utterly unique insofar as it was one of a kind. I was the first to do it. I was the first to submit a business model to Fitness First HQ, to the actual bosses who I knew personally, to move personal training within the company forward into Millennium, and that was my name of the business plan I proposed. Was Justin House's proposal of how to move PT forward for the next 20 years. That was literally what I submitted. So that's my single biggest career and business and PT financial regret is that A, it was accepted and embraced. B, I was given permission and a green light to do it. But I was at the height of my confidence, at the height of my earning at that time. I've never earned that money since, and I was so arrogant as to turn down what they offered. Um, at the time, I don't need to discuss specific numbers, do I? But at the time, in 1998, the powers that be at Fitness First offered me a permanent position moving forward. So I had total job security and, frankly, carte blanche to do what I wanted. But the idiot in me, the immature 26-year-old in me, hello, buddy, you're right, nice to see you. So yeah, the idiot in me turned down the opportunity. Such was the height of my arrogance at that age, and my attitude was my wage exceeded their offer. What I failed to realise, due to frankly immaturity, was that what I was offered was a permanent position, a lifetime position, and that security. So had I simply accepted their offer, and this is so clear in my mind, it was December '99, and we were on the cusp of if those of you remember the Y2K bug thing, the millennium, all that nonsense about our Y2K bug. So yeah, December '99. There's a lot of fear about computers crashing and planes falling out of the skies and all that nonsense. But that was the height of my teaching career, and all I had to do was to say yes. But like an idiot, I said no, and then I took myself to America, and that's where it begins. So, like a complete twat, and that's my single biggest regret of my life in my teaching career, in the industry of corporate fitness and bodybuilding and teaching. That all I had to do was to sit tight. I could still have gone to America. Just looking at that notification, I could still have gone to America and kept my British business flowing. But being the idiot I was, and I was so into bodybuilding that I couldn't wait to get to Venice Beach, and of course I did this, and I stupidly let this 10-year business that I built up from 91, 9-10 years, I simply let it fade. And had I not done that, I would be in a very different position today. So anyway, that's my biggest mistake. So I land in Venice Beach. It's January 2000. The upside was I landed at a time where, unbeknown to me, it was the very last, what's the right word? It was the very last hurrah, the very last foray into bodybuilding. It was the very last episode of I didn't know this. I didn't know this. I didn't know what was. Like I say, this series I'm doing now is going to be talking about what I did from really probably 2000 onwards, the last 20 years. What happened and why. So, like I say, any other sport like F1 or Grand Prix, you couldn't have penetrated the upper echelons. You really couldn't. But bodybuilding's different. Bodybuilding's easier. And I got to land in LAX. So I took a flight direct from Heathrow, which was organised by two clients of mine who worked for British Airways, a couple of stewards who got me upgraded to business class. So I was very lucky on a flight, and I got to LAX, Los Angeles International, had exactly £4,000, which I converted into dollars. Promptly hired a Hertz, Herts. It might have been thrifty, but I'm going to say Hertz. Actually, it's Hertz hired car, and it is a red Mustang. What they call it, a Saleen, SALEEN, with a Saleen kit on it. Beautiful red Mustang convertible, which I promptly drove down Sepulveda Boulevard, and Sepulveda runs from LAX straight into Venice Beach. Follow the signs. Just, you've got to remember, I had no idea that I was, leaving behind a very successful UK business that I would never create again. I was full of beans, full of confidence, and, looking forward to making my mark in Venice Beach, which I did. And very quickly, within a 4-day period, I had gained employment. My British accent was the first thing that got me spoken to. My British accent was the first conversation initiator. The first day I walked into Gold's Gym was a veritable who's who of pros. You've got to remember, coming from the UK, I had seen pictures of pros adorning the pages of magazines, and normally it's never the twain shall meet. Normally, when you see people from your chosen field that are household names in your in your area, if you will, who were we're talking really hero worship. You're talking about names and faces that I'd seen basically, on film and video, documentaries, and obviously adorning the pages of every Muscle and Fitness or Flex magazine from the 90s. And all of a sudden, they're there. Not just half a dozen, but all of them, all the time, every day. So, for what it's worth, from day one, seeing Aaron Baker, Lee Priest, Gunther Schlierkamp, Melvin Anthony, Charles Glass, Craig Titus, Tom Prince, Chris Cormier, Flex Wheeler, Paul Dillett, Kevin Levrone, Ronnie Coleman was in Texas, so I only saw Ronnie when I got to Vegas. Milos Sarcev, Gary Stridham, Jay Cutler. Remember, guys, Jay Cutler in 2000 was not Jay Cutler yet. He was being called Jason still. Greg Kovacs, Mike Matarazzo. And you would also see people like Jack Nicholson and Bobby De Niro, Jason Patrick, Chaz Palminteri, Rutger Hauer, Don Johnson, Stallone, these are the people and Arnold was now and again. Arnold was now and again. So I have to write those names down really, but seeing these people, or James Caan as well from Rollerball, seeing these people in the flesh, um, in the gym, was mind blowing. Because you have a perception of them. They're like, oh, well, I thought they'd be bigger or smaller, or do you know what I mean? It's really, really weird when you see them initially. It's really, really weird because it goes from hero worship to, um, yeah, it's. The other thing is I got to say is like when you see these pros, once you like, you get like, I mean, Gunter Schlierkamp was the first one. I think the first one I spoke to was probably Gunter Schlierkamp or Flex Wheeler, one of the two. Um, Oh, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. To put that in perspective, he just released a film called Doom with Carl Urban. And I remember watching the release of it on the Third Street Prom. And around the same time, having about 3 or 4 workouts with Dwayne, which all stemmed from me admiring his. I think he had a GMC. Is it a Denali? Am I saying that right? Oh God. Let me see. Let me see. Because there's a very famous restaurant on Main Street in Venice Beach called the Firehouse, because it was an old firehouse. It's where Arnold used to eat in the golden era of bodybuilding in the 70s and the 80s. Um, and the Rock, Dwayne, would park his, was it a Yukon? It's either Denali or a Yukon. I'm going to have to look it up in a minute. And he'd park it outside the Firehouse restaurant. And I geeked out over just, the fact that he'd debadged it. And he caught me. He caught me in the car park looking at the aesthetic because he'd managed to professionally debadge this. I'm sure it was a Denali actually. And the key code on the door handle was all, had been sprayed in really nicely. And, you know, um, oh, he had a couple of cars. He had a Cadillac Escalade as well. I was just very impressed at the sort of ability for this to be debadged. And he's like, "Hey, you touching my car?" And he was mucking with me, he's messing with me. And he's like, "You're a Brit?" And I was like, "Yeah." And we had a couple of breakfasts together at the Firehouse. And I have to say, the one overriding impression I got about Dwayne was his hands. They're incredibly well manicured, like the best manicure I'd seen. GMC Denali.
These came back from a search.
GMC Denali truck.
Here are some pictures that match.
Yeah, here it is. It's a nice truck, actually. Damn. Yeah, it's a monster of a thing, look. So yeah, one like that, but it was kind of more 2000-ish, really. Anyway, so a lot of these guys, like, a lot of these pros were either, just to be very clear, there was no middle ground. They were either very successful or they weren't. So because what I want to do is over a series of these, I'm going to get into the real nitty gritty, the real mud. I will go there. I will go there. But today, let's keep it light. Let's just keep it as a little sprinkle. And you'd have like a flex wheeler who preferred to be called by his real name, Ken. And typically like a Lincoln Navigator or Cadillac Escalade, black SUV. And, just, it was a status, right? So if you had like a Denali or a Yukon or a Cadillac Escalade or a Lincoln Navigator, these were the choice cuts, the black SUVs of a well-earning pro or a rock. So, if you were Dwayne Johnson or if you were Chris Cormier or Flex Wheeler, you're in that upper echelon. So that's what you would drive into Gold's Gym car park. The less successful pros would be driving something far more ordinary, yeah? Like an Isuzu, whatever, or just a standard saloon car. And this is where it gets a bit freaky, guys, right? I'm not going to say who just yet. But I saw a few pros living out of their cars. Now, that's not as bad as it sounds, and it's something I did for a few months myself, was to live out of a car. You don't get too cold at night because it's LA, okay? So I was actually able to stay I had a black SUV, Isuzu Rodeo, which over here would be a Vauxhall Frontera, long wheelbase. Anyway, so over there it's an Isuzu Rodeo. Still got pictures of it. And I slept in that for a few months, while I found my way. And it's not unusual for the dreamers at the Gold's Gym car park to use the facility, the amenities at Gold's, i.e. shower, and you've got the beach, and you've got these showers, and you've got arguably one of the best gyms in the world that's synonymous with bodybuilding and Arnold and the whole bit. So, like I say, hence the term Mecca. It's a pilgrimage. It's people go on a pilgrimage. It's like the holy grail of bodybuilding, and to this day, people do it for those reasons. But I saw it during its end, and like I say, it was the last 3 years of true glory, where every pro I've mentioned, and I've mentioned about 14, what I'll do on Wednesday is to have an actual list written down for you, because there's literally only 3 or 4 that aren't on that list that simply weren't in the area. Just a crazy comprehensive list of pros who, up until I'd landed in Venice, I'd only seen or been exposed to on video, VHS, or a magazine. Such was the level of my hero worship. And to see them in the flesh every day at Gold's, at Fresh to Go, at Kookaroo, at Firehouse, at 3rd Street Prom, all these locations, eateries, it's just, it's glorious, it's exciting, it's a letdown, it's an anticlimax. You feel deflated, you feel cheated, and you feel like it's a flirt between, oh my god, I'm here in Venice, this is wonderful, I love these guys, and they say to never, whoever they are, to never meet your heroes. It's just a term that's often used in life, don't meet your heroes. And I have to say, from personal experience, it can be the case that they are a monumental letdown. What's a real letdown is when you get to know some of these pros, and of course I did, and they were actual freaking scumbags. So that'll do tonight. That's just over half an hour. So what I've done really is to give you an overview of who and where and when, because you've got the who, the what, the when, the where, the why, right? That's the acting thing. The who, the what, the when, the where, the why. That's right. Who, what,
These came back from a search.
where, when, why. I always get the order wrong. Yeah, but the who, the what, the where, the when, the why, yeah. So the who, the what, the when, the where, the why. Sorry, I'm just remembering my acting. And I've given you the who and the where and the when, but I haven't really given you the what and the why. Think about it. Not really. Not really. So, what I'll do on Wednesday is to pick this up. Hopefully, some of you will see this and get enough of a sniff, a whiff of what's coming. Because I've not actually spilled the beans at all. I've simply explained that I somewhat imbecilically, idiotically, I would argue, took myself away from a successful teaching career in the UK. Like I say, hands up, that's on me. My mistake was to walk away December 99, Jan 2000, from really what would have been taking me through till now. Frankly, it was the keys to creating a personal training empire, the likes of which I would have now had I simply run with that ball. So, one massive element of regret in my life that I still carry to this day, that I've still got to somehow get over or get past or get through. I've just got to, you know, don't know. Got to get over that. Got to get over myself. It's gone. It's gone. It's no good me saying, oh, what about? Yes, I had it. I had arguably, well, certainly the first personal training business in the UK from inception for Fitness First. That is just a statement of fact. I was the first PT at the first club for that company that grew, and I was then given permission to run that model of business of teaching throughout all the UK clubs. And like an absolute twat, rather than stay and nurture it, which I should have done, obviously, I went to Venice Beach and had a great time, but that's how you bury a business. So the moral of the story is don't walk away from a great, thriving UK business to pursue a silly dream. The side effect is, what I've got is a lot of stories to tell you, good and bad, happy and sad, mad and rad. Oh dear. So I'll get into it. Like I say, it's just an intro tonight to let you know that it really happened. It was a real place, it was a real time, and my God, what I saw. What I saw. Remember, guys, I do not speak about or of or to anything that I did and that I didn't do. I'm not going to say, oh, this person, I heard they did this yesterday. No, I'll only speak about it if I was there. So that being said, I think I'll stop there, and I'll come back Wednesday and continue with what it was like to meet these pros, what I saw as the good ones, the bad ones, the nasty ones, the lying, cheating, depraved ones, and the wholesome ones. Yeah, big difference, guys, and how these pros behaved. Just yeah. There's more. I'm tired now. There's more. I'll do it on Wednesday. All right. There's only so much I can blurt out in one go. Suffice to say, there's a shit ton. There's 3 years that I'm going to give you of Venice Beach, and you've got to remember something fundamentally true. It was never the same after 2003. Whatever I witnessed, whatever I was privy to between 2000 and 2003, it was the death knell. It was the last swan song, the last, just whatever, the last hurrah, the last thing of of Venice Beach, man. It was the end of an era, truly the end of an era. So I'll see you Wednesday, same time, same place, same face, 8 o'clock onwards, episode 482 of digging under the skin of Venice Beach and what the pros were really like and what Vegas was like. Okay, you know what they say.